Hello, Mr. Moses, we can't hear you.
Mic is muted.
All right.
How about now? Can you hear now?
Yes, very clear.
I can hear now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that feedback. So we move on from here to talk about our what's it called? The collocation. Number 14. We saw clearly in the band descriptors where they said the person must have been able to use collocation. So what are collocation? Collocation are basically words that go together. Layman, I tried to use layman language, or definition in explaining the things that we need to know. So collocation are basically words that go together. On the very, periphery, on the very surface, we have adjectives going with nouns. On one end. On another end, you have adverbs going with verbs. Okay. On another, what's it called now? You have some nouns going with some other nouns. Okay. And in some other cases, and the places where I think I prefer that we use a lot is when you use words like verbs and plus preposition. Please, please, I want everybody to
don't meet your daddy. Why don't they hear that one?
Please put your microphone on mute. Please put your microphone on mute. I don't know who that is. I can't track that person down, but please put your microphone on mute. Please. That person has not done that. Thank you very much. So we have verbs plus preposition. Sorry, let me add this. Hello. Okay. Let me add those people who are coming in. All right, so let's continue, please. Let's continue. So verb and preposition. Now, and that's in this case, we are basically probably talking about idioms and some form of extensive meaning. When you have extended meaning in what's it called now? In English language. So now, adjective and nouns. Adjective and nouns, we talk about the typical, let's say, you can't use handsome, for example, for a woman. So it's handsome man, a male. So those words go together. You can't have handsome woman. Nor is it good or typically used when you say beautiful man. Okay? It's not accepted. When we know they use beautiful boy, like he's extremely handsome for people, but it has not been accepted into the body of English language. So then we go for, let's say, for example, shooting sporadically into the air. For example, you have shooting sporadically. Sporadically being the sorry, Mr. Prince. Shooting sporadically is shooting being the verb and sporadically being the adverb. Now we talk about nouns. For example, you could talk about words like giant, giant stride. These are what's it called now? They are nouns, two nouns coming together to form a collocation. Now the typical ones, or the ones that I think that are not so typical, or they are not so rampant out there, are the verb and preposition, which we can call phrasal verbs. So if you are going to, because your first assignment, students, are that you are going to have to dig the internet and write a whole lot of more notes on all of these things we are going to be talking about. So you might get to the internet and you want to talk about, they bring out phrasal verbs for you in case of, instead of collocation. When you're talking about collocation, they bring out phrasal verbs. You will not say, my teacher did not tell me about phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are also collocation with the peculiar combination of verbs and preposition. So verbs and preposition, you have, for example, let's say take. Take, for example, can go with up. Take up, okay? Take up an appointment, okay? All right? You could have also under that, okay? You could have, for example, okay, let me find a way to do this very well. So take up, you could have take up, you could have take, we are using the word take, okay? You could have take in when, okay, taking could mean putting a woman in a family way, and taking could mean somebody who was homeless and you brought the person, you allowed the person to stay in your house, is to probably accommodate somebody. So take in, I took him into my house, okay? So that could come in under that. You could have take off. In business, there's what you call take off, off-takers, all right? And you could have, in terms of aircraft, taking off, okay? To take off, to be in the air, all right? Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to mute some people from whom we're getting feedback. Sorry. Sorry.
We have started again. And she can let go my stomach. Mommy, I saw why you start again.
This is exactly what I was trying to stay away from, for me to say we should come for now. Okay. So I think I have. All right. Doesn't go up again. All right. So take off is maybe in terms of starting up a business, or the flights taking up into the air and all of that. And in terms of, in some cases, you have take out. Take out, for example, take out could mean taking out the trash, as in trash, or take out could actually mean to eliminate somebody. If, for example, in military parlance, they say take them out, take him out, they are basically talking about kill this person. So depending on this, so we have a variety of words like that in English language, where different meaning can be got from whatever combination you make out, especially when it comes to verb and preposition. Now, let's quickly look at examples of that. In the link that I gave you, all this, except for this note that we're using, this particular note that we are using, virtually all the, what's it called now? The notes that I have given you, I mean, virtually all the materials that you need are in the link that I shared on your class platform. So I want to quickly go to one of them. You will see, if you see what I'm seeing on through my screen, you see cohesive device pictures. Cohesive device pictures, you click on it, you find out that I've done a bit of some downloads, about 56 graphics designs. Some of them have this collocation in there, so you can just go there and write them out, or better still, you go back to the internet and let the internet bring out a lot of things for you to write up. Now, let me say this, that all of your first assignment would be that by the time you are done with all of this, I'm expecting that you read more on the internet and you write more notes. Don't just read up on the internet without writing notes, because if you don't write them from the notes, it will not be easy for you to go back to do your revision on the internet, because you may research. Sometimes you are doing research and you're able to find a particular resource or material in a particular place. You go back there, you may not find it the next day. So in that case, I'm expecting that you write out notes, you write out your notes and make notes from whatever you read from the internet, because revision is very, very important eventually at the end of the day. So now from this, I'm going to show you one of those phrasal verb combinations. I just pray this comes up quite fast. Okay, phrasal verb combinations. Okay, it's coming. Okay. Okay, sorry for, I don't know why it's this slow. The RAM is quite, enormous. I don't know why it's this slow. It's doing so much work at the same time. Okay, I think it's doing so much work at the same time. I'm converting the last audio, the last recording, and I'm happy to do something else going online. So let's see whether it will work this time. And if it wouldn't work, it's there in your material, your link, so you can always get it there. I think we should move on so that it doesn't delay us that much. Okay, so let's go back to our notes. Okay, now, so I hope we all understand the issue of the matter of collocation. Collocation is very, very important, very, very important, very, very important. Now, if you look at this, collocation is one of the areas where you can show your dexterity in language. For example, to start, for example, you can say, you want to use the word to start. Dexterity or synonyms, the dexterity of language and synonyms comes in when you can just use collocation that says take off. Instead of saying start, you can say take off. All right, so this helps in a number of ways of diversifying your language and not making your work too stereotypical. So passive voice is the next thing we're going to be talking about. Now, in passive voice, we are talking about, let's just use some illustration. This is active voice. Okay, active voice. In language, you have active voice. Let's say, the dog was killed by the man. So the dog was killed by the man. So you have that the dog was killed by the man. Active voice. Now, passive voice is basically swapping position of subjective and objective function. This is the subject and this is the object. So they are all in their position without any, what's it called now? Without any error. This is typically an English sentence, the way English sentences are. So you have subject and the object. Okay. You have subject and the object. Yes, Kepi. As you can see your hand up.
I wanted to ask, you said this active voice or passive voice?
This is active voice. The dog was, oh, sorry.
I thought it's the man killed the dog.
Thank you. I see what you're trying to. Don't mind me. I think my hand is working faster than my mouth. All right, so let's see. This is the man killed the dog. Okay, the man killed the dog. So you have passive. Okay, this is the subject, and this is the object. So going therefrom, we go to passive voice. So we are saying that we should use stuff like, we should swap the position where you have the dog was killed by the man. Now you find out that there's an introduction of was killed by the man. I mean, it there, instead of killed, you have was and by. So in this case, the subject has moved from the subjective position to the objective position, and the object has moved from the objective position to the subjective position. So using this is very, very paramount in your IELTS, because they help you to show that you are an advanced user of English language. I want to ask you, and you agree with me, that not all the time, even at your place of work, even if your place of work is a school, a university, hardly do you see people speak in passive voice. Okay, you hardly hear people speak in passive voice. You hardly see people on the streets using passive voice. Passive voice is not like the everyday language, but your using of it in IELTS, at least one in the body of the essay paragraph, is going to show that you are not just somebody who is trying to survive, but you're good at it using the English language. So that's active. Passive voice must be used at least maybe once or twice in your what's it called now? In a whole essay, once or twice in a whole essay. So number 6. Now we are familiar with this adjective. This form of adjectival conjugation. Let's see. We have, in those days, they gave us, in secondary school and primary school, they gave us positive. Then we have the comparative. If you remember, comparative and comparative. Comparative. And you have this superlative. Now, if you have written IELTS before, you find out that, or if you are familiar, maybe you may not have written, you find out that this area that I'm going to be talking about is one area they use to confuse people when it comes to writing. They confuse a lot of people with writing. They confuse people in reading with this. They confuse people in reading with this. Now, let's see this one. Okay. Let's see. If, for example, you have the word big, okay, here, positive, big. Okay. Comparative would be bigger, right? And superlative would be biggest. Now, let me say this, that the ones that you are you are going to have to use for it to make sense or mean something is when you use superlative, comparative and superlative. All right. Now, for example, you have another thing, okay? You may not have a word under positive for that, but you have words like more, most, right? Now, do you know that in IELTS, they could just bring this word out for you instead of more? I mean, most, there's some majority. All right. And you would go about looking for most in your question or your passage, but in actual fact, they've swapped it with majority. So you find out that these comparative and superlative are areas where, especially when they are teaching, they're asking you questions on true, false, not given. True, false, not given is one big area. True, false, not given is one big area where they make use of comparison, superlative, and comparative forms of adjectives, and they confuse people a lot. So in that case, we are expected to understand how these things work and be able to, identify them whenever they are used, and they are used in your essay, and you should be able to use it in your writing. So these vital signs are very, very important in your work. So you must be able to use it. These are just examples. Again, the assignment would be read more on this, write out as many examples as possible, and then you will be well on your way to doing your, to scoring, acing your IELTS by the next time you write. So contrast, okay, contrast using, we have talked about that, so I'm not going to belabor that. While we talked about that under coercive device, while, whereas, as against, okay, comes under that. So now gerund is a kind of, I've told us, we may have people who are very familiar with language, English language. Maybe you did English courses in this. My aim is not to bamboozle us with what's it called, a very extensive, grammar and definition. And my aim is to make sure that you understand I'm going to be using layman's word. So basically, gerund is basically starting sentences with the continuous tense forms of the verb, of verbs. So continuous tense forms of verbs is, you start the sentence with continuous tense forms of verb is gerund. So for example, you have something like, let's say, walking, e.g. walking, okay, and we have been alerted of another, that is going to be done. We are going to be off again in the next 10 minutes. So let's quickly get this over and done with. Walking every morning is another form of exercise. Walking every morning is another form of exercise. So you can see walking, the word walking is in the continuous tense format. So gerund, you've started, that's gerund, basically. So starting a sentence with ing, a verb form that ends in ing is gerund. So the more that you use, the more your work is highly rated. So lexical resources. Now, we saw there in that band descriptor where they say you must use high, what's it called now? Very good lexical resources, not too common lexical resources, not too common lexical resources. So I'm saying that you need to use advanced level grammar and words, not and words, not the everyday ones. Now, I am not saying by this that you should, okay, sorry, I think I wrote that in the wrong place. I'm not saying by this that you should now go about speaking big grammar, so to speak, like we have, like that of the former House of Rep member, Patrick Obanyago. No, that's not what I'm saying. You can use a bit advanced level vocabulary, or use the everyday vocabulary in a more refined and, you know, extensive usage. All right. The difference between what we score somebody very high, okay, and what we score another person very low is the use of grammar. So I'm expecting that you use your grammar very, very well. So let me quickly brush through this one. Now, for example, e.g., we are not going to, IELTS is not going to look at grammar, these two words the same way. And these two expressions the same way. I am very hungry. Okay? Versus I am quite famished. These are two level words. This one I am hungry, is low level. I am quite famished is high level. So IELTS will not look at them the same way. No, they won't. For example, let's go for another example. Like she was afraid. Everybody uses that. Your children at home use that. But it becomes advanced level if you can say shocked instead of afraid. She was shocked. She was shocked or frightened. Depending on frightened, depending on the situation, or you could even have overwhelmed, depending on the situation. So, hold on, sorry. Hello, can you hear me now? I think Lovett is saying she can't hear me. I hope you can hear me now. Hello?
I hear you.
Lovett, is that you?
Oh, this is someone else. I can hear you.
Okay. So I need Lovett to respond so that we can move on from here. Okay, so I think we should move on. We've not gotten that response yet. We should move on. All right. So now okay, let's call it let's end it here, and this one, then we come back and we join again. All right. So